Is it on? Gavin, you there? Gavin Beatty. Mr. Beatty, you there? Gavin?
He's there, he's just still joining, Guru. It takes a bit of time to...
I'm practicing.
Oh, okay.
Is that how you do it?
Is there anybody else there?
Gavin, you there?
Yes.
Gavin? Mr. Beatty? Gavin, you there? Welcome, Gavin.
Mr. Beatty, would you like to turn on your video? You've unmuted yourself, but we still don't seem to be able to hear you.
Are you there? Gavin? Should I sing my song again, ground control?
Mr. Beatty, can you hear us? You've unmuted yourself, but we still can't hear you. Are you able to turn your video on? And maybe your volume up?
Oh, sorry, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Gavin, you've got 3 minutes. Just before then, you hear the buzzer, which means you need to sum up, and then you've got time for questions.
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you. Kia ora tātou. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. I've made my submission primarily as a person interested in good representation review processes arising from my time with the Local Government Commission. So my submission addresses two main points: proposed retention of the mixed system for electing councillors given the council's decision to stay with STV, and the proposal to not retain community boards. In relation to community boards, I was struck by the statistic in the council's research that at least half the respondents were not aware of the existence of the current boards. This suggests to me there's an opportunity for the council to rethink the role of community boards in Kāpiti Coast, as opposed to scrapping them. I believe there's a real potential to create more empowered boards that will effectively engage with their distinct local communities and promote local placemaking and resilience. And I've set out examples of this in my submission. In relation to the mixed system of representation, I'm suggesting the council reflect on the reasons for its retention of STV and what it is seeking to achieve. STV can be a proportional representation system, but this will only occur in certain circumstances. In short, it will not happen in 1 or 2 member wards. So is the council actually wishing to provide the most effective representation for all communities of interest in Kāpiti Coast, referred to in the research as both the horizontal stripe and the vertical stripe? As I've said in my submission, with an understanding of the quota of votes needed to be elected to council under STV, about 2,000 votes with a 50% turnout for a 10-member council, there is a real opportunity for more diverse representation, including of young people, rural people, Māori, business interests, and others. This will be alongside representation of the current 4 geographic communities of interest, i.e. the current ward areas, given they are also well above the quota needed for representation. As I say in my submission, the fully at-large election and understanding of the full potential of STV, you can have the best of both worlds. This involves both representation of communities of interest spread across the district, as well as representation for the local geographically based communities.
Mr. Beatty, you need to sum up.
Thank you. And removal of the wards also removes issues relating to compliance with a plus or minus 10% issue, the 10% rule. So in conclusion, I suggest the council seriously considers the option of a fully at-large election for Kāpiti Coast and that the 4 community boards be retained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. question from Councillor Coates.
Kia ora, Gavin. Thank you for your really well thought out submission, and it's interesting and helpful having a submission from someone with your background and experience. The question I'm about to ask you, I think you've essentially answered a little bit in terms of your preferred model around having all district-wide councillors, but if we could just put that to one side, what we have heard through the submissions is largely a retention of the status quo. I wouldn't ask this of other submitters, but given your experience with the Local Government Commission and their strict rules around the plus or minus 10% guidelines, Waikanae specifically being underrepresented at 26%, how do you consider the Local Government Commission would consider a proposal from this council to retain the status quo given the gross underrepresentation? Remembering the advice that we've had from staff is that the status quo is not an option due to that underrepresentation of 26%.
Yes, well, I really obviously can't speak for the Commission. I can only give a personal reflection on that. And as you'll be aware, the last review, the Otaki and Waikanae boundary was highlighted in the determination. And I think it was a feeling that it was bordering on the higher end, but I have to say there are other examples around the country, and Banks Peninsula is a case in point in Christchurch City, which is about 60%. So there's no rule of thumb around what is excessive, but I have to say there is more flexibility now, and so it really hinges around community of interest. And so if a council can actually demonstrate that by complying you would split a distinct community of interest or group communities of interest that was little in common, the chances are the Commission would go along with it. And so I can't answer your question directly, Councillor, but those are the factors, I guess, to be considered, what the Commission may or may not actually determine.
Well, I think your answer's been helpful. Certainly what I've heard from you is it's not out of the question in your personal view. Thank you.
It's not out of the question, no.
Good afternoon, Gavin, Mr. Beattie. Your submission is very, very useful, thank you, and I really appreciate your experience and thank you for sharing it. I'm Councillor Elliott here. My question is similar to Councillor Coates's in that I wanted to know your feeling on how the Commission would consider a proposal we put in that is substantially different from the one that we put out for public consultation. Should that be the way this thing falls?
I guess, again, the caveat, I can't and shouldn't be seen to be speaking for the Commission. They will make their own determinations. I can only sort of reflect on past experience. I mean, the Commission was reasonably critical of one council. No, it never remained nameless at this stage last time round, and that it did change its proposal quite substantially in its final proposal. And that was to actually introduce, it was proposing to largely stick with the status quo, which was for wards. And then the final proposal was then to go at large and introduce community boards. And the Commission didn't support that on the basis that the Council hasn't really consulted the community appropriately with significant changes. And so I think the Commission says in its guidelines that consultation is very important, and that if the Council is proposing significant changes, the time to do it is in the initial proposal. So a change in the final proposal, I believe anyway, personally, shouldn't be significantly different. I mean, it may well be a council goes back to the status quo. That is something at least the community will be aware of, rather than introducing something quite new, as the case I've just reflected on, in which the community hasn't had the opportunity to input into.
Thank you, that's been most useful.
Thank you, Jackie. Doesn't seem like we have any more questions today, so I'm Janet Holbrook, Deputy Mayor, standing in for Guru. He's had to slip out. So on behalf of the Mayor and the rest of the councillors, I'd like to thank you for your time today. Thank you very much. And your expertise has certainly been very helpful and useful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ian, are you there? Ian, can you hear us?
Start video. Can you hear me now or not?
Yes, kia ora, Ian. We can all hear you. We can all hear you clearly. Janet Holbrook here. The mayor's had to step out for a second. So, when you're ready, you can start your presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak. Yes, the Paikakariki Community Trust did send in a submission to KCDC on this point, and I'll take that as read, and we'll make a couple of key points only. I won't traverse the material that we put in our submission. I think it's self-explanatory. Okay, the point one that we want to emphasize is that we believe the community board to be an essential part of genuine participatory democracy. We think that without the community boards, communication would tend to be in one direction only. That is top down. And we think it would be increasingly difficult for citizens to express any kind of view to the Kāpiti Coast District Council. The people on the, before going any further, I should emphasize, we're focusing on the Paikakariki Community Board. We're not commenting on any other aspects of the review, just as it pertains to the Paikakariki Board. Our experience of the community board in Paikakariki is that it keeps people mindful of the place of KCDC. The board members are well known in the community. As Janet, you will be well aware of that fact. They're all involved in the community. Sophie Hanford, who's on the community board, is also a councillor. As you know, people in Paikakariki are not slow in approaching community board members with issues that they want to be discussed. And we think the community board is frankly a major part of genuine democracy. Let's move on to a second point that we want to make, that we identified in the review material that was sent from KCDC, and that is relating to a complaint that people generally don't know about the purpose of the community board or even of its existence. In commenting on this, we think that KCDC is accountable for ensuring that people are given information about the role of the community boards. It seems to us a dereliction of duty for KCDC to suggest that people don't know about the community boards and are ignorant of them or confused about their role. That's your job. It's your job to let people know what they're doing. It's your job to communicate the message. Third point that we wanted to make was, again, in relation to the material that was sent out for comment, was a reference to the cost of running the community boards. Yes, the figures mentioned are probably more substantial than we would have thought if we'd just been asked to name a number. But we actually think it's a red herring. Democracy does cost. This is the point. Democracy is never free. And to say that the cost of democracy is excessive is, frankly, looking for a cop-out. We don't think it's an argument to disestablish at all. We think you need to manage your finances better. So they're the additional points that we wanted to make, and just to supplement the comments that we put in earlier. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ian. Does anybody have any questions? There don't seem to be any, Ian.
That's fine.
So, Councillor Hanford.
Kia ora, Ian. Just a question. You mentioned that you feel the community board's doing a great job, and I definitely don't disagree. I'm just wondering if you think there's anything specifically in Paikakariki's context that you think could or should happen to enhance Paikakiriki community board's ability to make a difference and better represent the diversity and the extent of that diversity within Paikakiriki, recognising the mana whenua, the young people, and everyone that inhabits our beautiful village.
Okay. Well, I mean, clearly you as well as I know all the people on the community board. They're all elected. People put themselves up for election and then they're voted in or out. I guess I'd have to say that it's up to people to put themselves up for it. That is my first point. Second, the role of the people on the community board. We have, I think, some very good online communications in Paikakiriki. The Paikakiriki NZ website is well known in the village and is frequently updated and always contains up to date news on the happenings in the village. You can never over communicate with people. I'm certain there are other ways. I think in this day and age, we've avoided the paper distribution of news. We'd prefer it online. And I think most people are comfortable with that. Sophie, I'm not sure if I've answered the question really. Do you want to rephrase it, or
No,
are you happy with that?
That's good. It was, you've definitely answered, I think, part of it for sure. The main thing though was if you feel like there are, I guess, different things the community board might need to enable it to reach into those parts of our community that maybe we don't hear from as much. And you mentioned the digital stuff, which is obviously key. But if there was anything else you feel like the community board would need to enable them to do that.
Can I just make one point on that, which is in looking online to see who attends the community board meetings, I thought it would have been nice to get a list of names of members of the public who turn up, because or at least a number, or like we had 10 this month, or we had 4, or whatever. The names of the board members are all there clearly, with apologies from those who aren't there. But I think if I turned up at a meeting, and I have in the past turned up at meetings, I'd probably like to see my name mentioned as an attendee. There you are.
Thanks for that suggestion, Ian. We have Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Ian. I just want to take one issue with you. My children do think there are opportunities where I over-communicate with them, but aside from that, I'm interested in, with your experience with the community boards, do you think we do a good job in the whole of explaining what community boards are for and what the job descriptions of being a member are?
Well, no, I don't. No. I don't mean to be overcritical, but no, I don't think you do.
I have no fear that it's very mild criticism compared to some of it today. So.
Okay, no, I don't. I don't think you do enough. There you are.
Good, thank you. That's something for us to work on.
Thank you, Ian, and thanks for not being overcritical today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Kāpiti. Is that it for this session? Right, so we're back at 3:20. Yes, I did. That's what's on our... and I don't suppose people are going to be able to turn up early, so I kind of stuck with it. Go shopping.